Welcome to the event. We're really happy that you're here. We're about to go live in just a few moments, but before we lift off, there's a few important things we want to make sure that you're aware of so you get the best possible experience out of this. First of all, the sound current is supremely important to us, the musical experience. So if possible, we really encourage you to use good speakers or headphones to experience the class with. Second, if you have any pre-existing injuries, please take care of yourself, modify as you need to. Don't risk exacerbating an injury because of a yoga exercise. If you have any pre-existing medical conditions and you're not quite sure if this would be good for you, please consult with your primary healthcare practitioner and make sure it's the right thing for you. Also, make yourself relatively comfortable. You can use a cushion, and in fact we encourage you in our seated positions, meditation practices, to use a cushion. It helps lift the heart up, keep the spine straight, and it's more ideal for the flow of energy in the body and for the meditation experience. You can even be sitting in a chair with feet flat on the floor for those of you that are unable to sit in a meditative sitting posture on the floor. Just use a chair, and for many of the exercises that will work perfectly. If you're having any problems with the video streaming, try refreshing the page, or if you see a gear icon on the video, adjust your resolution. If you're new to this type of thing, just take care of yourself. If there's something that you don't quite understand, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Everything that needs to click will click after a few times of trying it out. Enjoy the experience. We're about to get started in just a moment.
Okay, amazing. Okay, welcome. Thanks for being here. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I always say this, but I say it almost like as if I'm trying to make it be this way, but I always feel like, to me, this is the most important American holiday. Of course, it's not treated as such. We can try to treat it that way, like ourselves, if we resonate with that idea. There's no real consumerism around it, so it's hard to make it a great holiday in America. You know? There's no real gifts to give, but there is a great gift that I think we have, and I always try to remember, and thankful to remember right now to start with giving thanks to Coretta Scott King for making that we have this holiday. It was her that fought for this and made this happen. And we celebrate Dr. King, and we hold him kind of high as like the leader. After all, the moment he was born, the constellation of Aries was on the eastern horizon. So his ascendant is the Aries. And it's called Ashwini. It has the Shakti to move places quickly. And so he was someone who was Aries is the mythology of Aries is the leader, and to climb to great heights and to be the first and the best and to climb to the top of the mountain. And very poetically, his life ended with his final speech, is famously called his mountaintop speech. And if you never watched it, you must. It's so emotional. It's so extraordinary. But to do something meaningful on Martin Luther King Jr. Day and you're not sure what to do, go over to YouTube and spend a half hour listening to his final talk. Where he was sick that night. It was raining, didn't want to come out. He sent Ralph Abernathy to speak in his place. But everybody wanted Dr. King, of course, and they were there supporting the striking sanitary workers, also very appropriate. And that's a phenomenal thing that we even have it on recording. And I say it's the most important holiday because I think it represents the best of what America is, and America is a complicated thing. that's full of beautiful things, full of catastrophe, tragedy, and greatness. And all of that is in this story, and all of it, and the best of what we are and what we can be is in this story, and in what this represents. His dear friend, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, said that the future of America will kind of be dependent on how much the influence of that movement has on the nation. America is an experiment. This thing is an experiment. It's not something that's like necessarily will be around forever. You know, the empires come and go. And so he defined what he called the 4 catastrophes of America. We could also say like of modern civilization, really, because now, you know, everything is totally inseparable. And check this out. I read this earlier. A friend of mine posted this one line. This is from his letter that he wrote from the Birmingham jail in 1963. And he said, in a real sense, we are caught in an inseparable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. That's Tantric Buddhism. We are caught in an inseparable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Basic truths that then inspires, because if you really like get that, and not only get it philosophically, intellectually, and that's the beauty. Maybe it's a great place where Martin Luther King Day and Dharma practice connect. Because Dharma practice at its best does become a type of activism, because through the experience of it, you gain an experience of the independent nature of all things. That my interest in happiness, my ability to be happy, is totally intertwined with my concern for yours. Not only is it my happiness intertwined with your happiness, but my wish for your happiness, my concern for your happiness. And then that also, as long as that only extends, like he's speaking in 1963 and talking about inseparability and mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny between different states in this context. He's in Georgia, and then that state over is Alabama. But then later in his life, and he was really unpopular because of it, he called the war on Vietnam an evil war at a time where that was a very unpopular opinion. And so at the time of his death, less than 50%, his approval rating in the United States amongst all races was less than 50%. Martin Luther King Jr. The fact of the matter is, he was someone who made people uncomfortable. And when time passes, time shows all things. So how does history look at things? Well, history looks at, this stuff is relevant, as relevant today. The 4 catastrophes, what are they? I was going to call this class the 4 catastrophes, but then I thought nobody would come. And then it was already kind of dreary. It's called 1,000 Midnights. And for years now, every Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we do something I like to teach. And in 1,000 Midnights is a phrasing I took from his acceptance speech, of the Nobel Peace Prize, where he said, "When our days are dreary with low hovering clouds, and our nights are darker than 1,000 midnights, we will know that we are experiencing the creative turmoil of a genuine civilization struggling to be born." We are not yet a genuine civilization. In some ways, perhaps, that's the famous line when Gandhi was asked, well, what do you think of British civilization? He's like, I would love to see it. It's kind of the same, What is American civilization? But when our days are dark and dreary, and our nights are darker than 1,000 midnights, we will know that we are experiencing. It's not all negative, His phrasing is so masterful. We will know that we are experiencing the creative turmoil That word just tells you there's something, a creative turmoil of a genuine civilization struggling to be born. So the four catastrophes is first is the imperial catastrophe, which is militarism and the military-industrial complex. And by its very presence, it skews our priorities. It skews as in distorts our ability to see clearly. Because you can't believe in natural dependent nature on each other. You can't believe in the interwoven connectivity of all things, not if you're going to bomb all these little babies. You can't do it. And be okay with that, you can't. And so that brings to what he called the spiritual catastrophe of materialism. And when that which is material becomes more supreme than that which is long-lasting, also it skews perspective, it distorts the mind. And then there's the economic catastrophe of poverty. And then the moral catastrophe of racism and the superiority complex of race. So militarism is the imperial catastrophe. Materialism is what he called the spiritual catastrophe. Poverty is, and that was at the time of his death. Great, I always recommend, if nobody's seen it, great film called King in the Wilderness is 1,000% worth watching. It was just came out several years ago, HBO original, and it's about the last year. It's about the last year of his life, really, and you see how depressed he was, and how with the heavy burden of responsibility. Yeah, he had when he was born on the ascendant was Aries, but in that ascendant of Aries was the planet Jupiter. And they say it's like the best thing that can happen in the horoscope is when Jupiter is on the ascendant at the time of birth. Or in other words, Jupiter placed in the first house takes away 10 million blemishes from the horoscope. That's either good news or bad news. First of all, did you realize there were 10 million blemishes in the horoscope? These are just kind of, in a certain way, poetic ways of making a point. It's that it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy life. Obviously not. There was nothing easy about this life. What was he, 36 when he was assassinated? Something like that? 30, 39, 38? Yeah, this is, wow. But an old soul. And so Saturn, if you would have looked up at the time he was born, about right there, then Saturn would have been there in the 9th house, the house of the teacher, the house of the guru, and the house of the preacher, which he was. To me, I always think, when I think Dr. King, I think first and foremost a devotee of Christ. And and clearly that was where everything else came from. That was his, what they would call in India, his devata, the focal point of his worship, the way he connected to the infinite. So anyways, there was, the third one is racism is the moral catastrophe, and poverty is the economic catastrophe. And the point, though, that he would make is that you cannot separate the four, that you can't address one without addressing all of them. The military-industrial complex is totally tied into the economic complex. The military-industrial complex, all of them are obviously connected to the spiritual catastrophe. But in the United States, we are not a religious, it's not, you have freedom to worship any way you want or to not worship at all. That's the ideal. And so therefore, we're not all Christians, or we're not all Jews, or we're not all Muslims, or we're not all anything. So somehow we need a secular spirituality that goes across boundaries, and that's a simple idea of one more time. We are caught in an inseparable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. So it need not be religious. It need not be our spirituality, as a people, really only need to be via our connection with each other and acknowledgement that the same way I am suffering, you are also suffering, even if I can't stand you. You know what I mean? What, y'all don't have people you can't stand? Everybody does, That doesn't mean you don't have love. So part of it is there has to be a realness present in order to practice spirituality at that basic level, because to me, spirituality is the opening and the blossoming of authenticity. Who is the real me? What is this really all about? And that then takes you down a bit of the rabbit hole, because that who is the real me question doesn't get answered quite quickly. It just continues and continues and continues. In fact, it's like the never-ending question of who is the real me, what is this, what is the real us? But what we can definitely witness and experience by going down that journey, and that's one of the great things that yoga practice and Dharma practice does, maybe the greatest thing that it does, is it gives you the experience of the interwovenness of life. And that's a blissful experience, actually. It's not some heavy thing. When you recognize via your inner experience that you're interconnected with all living things, not just the humans. It's amazing. It's blissful. So in a certain way is by getting into that subtle nature of what we are and what this all is, it opens us, it makes us blissful, but then that does give us the inconvenient reality that our way that we think about things changes. Because if I'm having a genuine experience of the inseparability of life, which is a very abstract thing to talk about, but it's not an abstract thing to experience. It's totally real and deep, and mystical and wonderful. It's that not only does it bring joy, it brings compassion. So then the ideologies that we may have been holding in our lives, many that we've inherited from our families. And those sometimes are the strong ones. Sometimes we have really strong ones that were inherited via trauma that we experienced. It's particularly if we experience trauma in the early part of life. I grew up feeling that when I would see, for instance, an Israeli flag, very positive. Every weekend, I would stand up in my Hebrew school and sing the Israeli national anthem every week. We would do that. And so it was always a symbol of like something great, something, it represented something beautiful. And it still does, but not anymore in the same way. Not that flag. For me personally. It's just for me personally. I can't, But the governments never represent the people in that way. They just don't. I was noticing this with deadheads. Not changing the subject too much. In real life, I've never met a mean deadhead. I've never been at a dead show and maybe I have. The vast majority of deadheads I meet are the loveliest people, especially at a dead show. On the internet, these motherfuckers are the meanest people you can find. You post something about some song and they know something better and they're like, what a dick, what a dork, da, 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 da. It's like, they're like the meanest, most evil, horrible. You would never want to hang out with the internet version of deadheads that I see on these threads. So we're all confused, a little bit, and our perspectives are getting skewed about how other people are. When we meet people in real life and we can just have a conversation and communicate, and mostly be compassion and remember that other person is suffering, just the same that you and I are suffering. They are suffering, and they may have a total different opinion or experience, but the fact that they're suffering and that we are also suffering does not change. Does not change. You know, also growing up, I have the American flag. I pledge allegiance to that. It's a beautiful thing. It's like a symbol of great, you know, freedom and like, but then you learn about other things. Ooh, I don't see that same thing. But it doesn't mean that the symbols have to get dragged down into the what the actually doesn't represent. You know, so this experiment of our world and our civilization right now, our attempt for civilization, everything is, what's different now than when Dr. King was alive is everything is highly connected across the planet. So at one point it's like a division between Atlanta and Alabama, you know, Georgia and Alabama. That's a pretty big, there can be, you know, pretty big even cultural gaps from state to state. But they were all connected because on the news every night they're watching one channel, you know, or Walter Cronkite is coming on. And everybody's kind of being served the similar narratives. Now what's happened, everything is so highly connected. We're all being served different narratives. Whatever the narratives are that we resonate, then the machine that is this kind of interconnected technology world, it's kind of puts you, we all know this, puts us in our own echo chamber that kind of reinforces our own perspectives. And it's creating a type of polarized experience on the planet right now that could combust. So we have to be mindful of that. That's why Martin Luther King Jr. Day is an important holiday. Because maybe it'll help us contemplate these things a little, like soften our heart a little bit. And try, it doesn't mean we don't have something that we stand for, and quite the opposite. Absolutely. It gives us conviction to stand with in what we're all about. But that type of activism that lacks compassion, whether it's the compassion for the oppressor or compassion for the oppressed, both are in a tremendous state of suffering. Compassion never justifies something. Compassion isn't saying that's okay. No, it's not. Compassion will keep love there even though it's not okay. Because it's acknowledging inside of it is the wisdom of suffering and the wisdom of the wish for happiness that each of us share. Each of us are trying to be happy. Happiness, though, can be very elusive. So that's why the yogis, they create sadhanas for themselves, practices for themselves that help stay connected to the things that don't change, the thing that isn't elusive. But that thing that isn't elusive is tremendously subtle. The thing that's the part of us that exists even prior to coming into this body, and that which will stay carrying along even after this body and this mind and all the narratives that it's holding dissipates. The yogi is just saying, find out what remains and be inside of that love affair. And then that turns all this stuff like catastrophe, 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 catastrophe. This is the path of joy, actually, and it's the path of bliss. Because in order to actually have happiness, you have to, what's the first step? You gotta admit, we got a problem. And then the second step is then you name it, you identify it. Here's one example of how that can happen. 4 catastrophes: spiritual catastrophe, racial catastrophe, economic catastrophe, and whatever the other one was. So then when you can kind of identify those things, then it's like identifying the patterns in our own mind. And as soon as I identify, I didn't realize I was a bit of a narcissist. That's a hard thing to come to grips with. And for many people, it's the case. Tendencies towards more narcissism. It's not some horrible thing. We're all trying our best. But when we come to the critical awareness or that sort of very tender, vulnerable recognition that I am not only participating in my own suffering, but I am participating in the suffering of others. It'll make you want to cry. It's not a bad thing to realize that. It's a great thing to realize that. Because naturally, as soon as you realize that, you want that to change. Because why? At the center of each of us is goodness. At the center of each of us is love. Definitely. And so that's the most difficult and the most wonderful part of a Dharma practice, is it's doing both of those things simultaneously. By opening up the field of awareness, you recognize the greatness that is there. That means you recognizing your interconnected dimension. It comes with a type of feeling of it's majestic. It gives you a feeling of your own beauty, actually, and your own sense of kind of living creative intelligence that each unique organism is. Everybody has these totally unique bodies, totally unique stories, but we get stuck in the mud. And so while it's simultaneously doing that, though, it's simultaneously, because that once that field of awareness is opening up, it reveals the tendencies that are contributing to your own suffering, my own suffering, and the suffering, and how my tendencies are also contributing to others' suffering, even just in my perspectives and the way I think about things. So that's the harder part to witness, but it's essential in that just witnessing it starts to change it. The whole thing, though, starts and ends with compassion, because if I'm not actively making sure that before anything else, before I'm working on self-purification, it's not really pure, we say that, but it's not purification of the self, it's purification of the mind and the tendencies of the mind that obstruct your experience of the self, of the real self. And so as soon as I notice my kind of like inner narcissism, anyone ever done that before? Notice their inner narcissism? No, it's just me. I feel really awkward. Well, first it sucks, First it's like, But what does it do? Just by witnessing it, it starts to change it. If you're honest, because you can't really witness and not be honest. So it's this being honest, and if we actually want to be happy, then we have to also want those around us to be happy. And if we want those around us to be happy, then we also have to pay attention to how we are affecting those around us. So it starts and ends with compassion, and that's a muscle that we shouldn't just expect is already developed. It's developed in some ways. We all naturally, if we see like an animal, like a sweet dog or something who's suffering and in pain, then immediately our hearts are like, oh, you have to really be, have a cold heart to not feel compassion for like a sweet animal suffering. So it's already there. But what takes the muscle that has to be developed is to, as soon as you notice something that you don't like about yourself, or you think there's something about you that others don't like, or whatever, have we developed the compassion muscle that responds to that? Is compassion and love towards yourself the first thing we feel? Or is it self-condemnation is the first thing that we feel? Yeah. So, if it is the first thing that we feel, maybe the second thing that we feel is deep compassion, because why? We noticed we're suffering. And that's what I do. Is in order to get really compassion practices to come alive for me, the only way I've figured out to be able how to do that is I start with myself. I can't start going outward before I start here, for me, for my development. And so I first actively reflect on and remind myself that I do want to be happy, and it's good to tell my mind that, because it already knows it, and it's already doing all the things it does as an instinctive and subconscious attempt to be happy. Get me the coffee, limited thing, Who's a da-da-da-da? Who is it? I hope this happens. Da-da-da. It's always trying to be happy, but it's doing it in a scattered way. So taking a moment to just reflect and remind myself that I do wish to be happy. And that'll automatically remind me that the mind's attempt to create happiness is often the very thing that robs it of its happiness, because it's grasping after things and it's pushing away the things that it doesn't like, even though those might be the things that need to come. Then I think about my own difficult predicament of being in a human body, knowing that one day I will die, knowing that one day my loved ones will also die, and that this thing is totally impermanent. And I remember how I'm suffering. And I remember how I don't want to suffer. And it seems like, well, that's a kind of a drag way to start the day. I thought it was like, what do we say on Instagram nowadays? Like, I can't remember. I wish I would have nailed that. There's a cliche I'm looking for. No. Anyways, sounds like a kind of not a great way to start the day, remembering that you will die. But it is a great way to start the day, because immediately it brings things into the center. And you get connected to what your life is about at even a little subtle level. And it doesn't make you sad, especially with practice. It doesn't make you feel heavy. It's like, good job by me for making a moment to reflect on impermanence. Especially when we're experiencing interconnected nature of things, we're less and less scared of dying. But it always connects us to what the dharma of our life is by reflecting on that. Time is ticking. And then I think about how I am already happy in a lot of ways, and it's really easy to lose track of it and lose perspective. And so part 3 is counting your blessings. I count my blessings, and I think about it, and then I make the wish, may all those feelings overflow. Yep. And then I move on and I think about, this is just practicing what the Buddha called the 4 immeasurables. Also Patanjali speaks of the 4 immeasurables in the Yoga Sutras. It's a practice. And so then you move on to a loved one and how much they want to be happy. Imagine that they're suffering. And one technique is you think of your most loved one that you care about the most that you can think of in that moment, and you think of them terribly suffering. If you're already like emoting with compassion, no reason to do that. But if you're feeling like I just woke up and I like really would rather be getting coffee or tea but yet I said I was going to do these stupid 4 immeasurables, then that would be a good time to think about, this is life. This is sometimes how it is. No, it's just me again. Somebody else needs to get up here and teach this class. I feel like a mess. So then you think of the loved one, and sometimes yes, and that's what these Tibetan practices do, is they'll visualize their mothers going in terrible suffering with specific visualizations in order to arouse the feeling of great compassion. And as soon as they arouse the feeling of compassion, they immediately transfer it to a more subtle field, which is the field of all living beings, what they call their countless mothers, with the belief that they've lived so many lifetimes over and over that everyone at some point, every living thing at some point has already been their mother. Maybe that's true from some like materialists can't get their head around those ideas. It's just like immediately defunct. But if you're less concerned about that materialism and you more like to practice this stuff as an art, then you realize that that's a very advantageous perspective to hold. And so then once you arouse your heart in that way, starting with oneself, moving to a loved one, then you can move to an adversary. So if there's someone in the world or in your life personally that's really triggering you and is adversarial, then you go through those same things with them. And then finally, the more subtle level is the endless neutrals. They're not your friend and they're not your enemy. They're just endless lives. And it's having those same wishes with that same kind of feeling and emotion for like Dalai Lama's favorite prayers, as long as space endures, as long as time remains, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. A bodhisattva's vow. And that's how the Dharma practitioner, in a certain way, becomes an activist, a Dharma warrior, like which is bodhisattva, where one commits themselves. Martin Luther King Jr. is a bodhisattva. There's no doubt about it. And so we all can be that. It doesn't mean being famous or being in each of our stories are heroic. And to tune into that, that's what yoga practice, and that's what really LFA is all about, truly, is creating a space where we're not only remaining connectivity to that reality, but we're blossoming it, we're making it strong. Our own magnetism, our own meaningfulness in life, purposefulness. And I don't know what your purpose is, but I know it always, with all of us, it always has to do with serving others. It always has to do with serving others. And so if we're not quite sure, how can you be helpful? How can we be helpful? So give thanks to Dr. King and Coretta Scott King, this kind of like embodiment of beautiful feminine elegance, power, love, and may we all be able to embody some of all of that in some way or another. All right, let's do yoga. Bravo. Come on the hands and knees. Let's start moving our bodies and have a good time. Inhaling, the head is coming up, and exhaling, the head is coming down. You start with nice, smooth motion, and go at your own pace. Through the nose, breathe. Inhale, head up. Exhale, head down. And good. Come sitting back cross-legged. Easy pose. Sukhasana. They translate it as easy pose, but sukha is like happy, actually. It's literally, if you take the word apart, its roots will tell you it means good space. So it's holding, that's why you sit with your heart lifted up, Sit bones connected. That's often you can use a cushion to help that process. One vertical relationship with gravity, so you're creating an environment for good space, good life force space. So your life force chi can operate with greater ease. If it's kind of like this, much harder. Too many relationships with gravity. Head is here, back is here. One vertical relationship with gravity as best you can, and soften into that. And then your hands at your ankles or shins, and in this case you inhale, lift, exhale, back, just nice and easy, like a it's like a sniff in through the nose and a sniff out. Now 30 seconds, listen to the breath only. Put your mind and the breath together. Body, breath, mind. Nam, sat, nam. A little deeper the breathing. Inhale. And suspend the breath. Hold the posture, exhale. Now close your eyes. Now inhale. Suspend the breath. Keep the breath in. Relax your upper body. And then lift up the rectum, sex organ, navel, up and in a little bit. And then exhale. Bravo. Hands like here. Heart lifted, shoulder blades release. Inhale, swinging to your left. Exhale, swinging to your right. Create a nice rhythm, yeah? Dr. King. I'm convinced that the universe is under control of a loving purpose, and that in the struggle for righteousness, we have cosmic companionship. Behind the harsh appearance of the world, there is a benign power. That's the great discovery of the yogi. To see if we can prove to ourselves that at the center of this thing is something they call love and intelligence and even bliss. In the language in Sanskrit they call it Sat Chit Ananda. Truth, intelligence, and the bliss of real love. Is the basic nature, the nucleus of all things. To the center, inhale deep. Suspend the breath and lift again that root lock. Pelvic floor up and in, navel up and in. Heart wide open, heart center of your chest softened. Then exhale. Hands to your knees. And then it'll be like this, just a simple. Inhale up, exhale, let it release. Yes. And an inhale, squeeze up. Squeeze out some tensions and release. Exhale. Okay, stretch your legs like wide open like a V shape. King in the Wilderness is the name of that movie. Flex the feet, energy in your toes. Inhale, center, turn to either side, exhale, down. Inhale, back up, turn to either side, exhale, down, and keep going. To the center, inhale. Hinge forward a little bit. Deepen the breathing through the nose, long, slow, deep, and complete. Finishing every exhale. Only then begin the inhalation that comes next. Yeah, and that's good. And now exhale down. And in the posture, inhale up, then exhale, fold, inhale up, exhale down, inhale, lift. Deeper the breathing, please. Exhaling down, fill the lungs, inhaling up, exhaling down. Deeper the breath, please. Lifting up, exhaling full, inhale up. Exhale, relax. Shake your legs out a little. Sukhasana, easy pose. Hands in the wisdom seal, Gyan Mudra, Jupiter to the thumb, index to the thumb, palms facing up. However, relaxed up on your legs. Take a deep inhalation in. Then exhale. Inhale. Fully exhale. Now you're going to inhale and begin this light rhythmic breath like a super light. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale deep. Exhale. Inhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Heart lifted, shoulders released. Now the mind goes relaxed. The breath goes rhythmically deep. Inhale. Suspend the breath. Now lift the mula bun, root lock, rectum, sex organ, navel, up and in. Suspend the breath. Suspend the mind. Let the mind be spacious. For a moment, it's relaxed. And then through your nose, exhale. Fantastic. Okay, and please come on to the back. If it strains your low back, hands should be under the butt. Hug your knees up to your chest. And then inhale, and you come into stretch pose, as Charlotte's demonstrating if you're not familiar. You inhale there, and you go. Inhale. Hold the position, draw the navel in, draw the pelvic floor up and in, navel in deeper, and relax. And bravo. Uno más. Inhale. Exhale. Hug the knees up to the chest. Remember, if it's straining, your hands should be under your butt. Then, take a deep inhale. Come into stretch pose. Inhale. Pelvic floor up and in, navel in deep so it shakes. Deeper, navel in deeper, deeper. Relax. Yes, very nice. Grand rising. That's what I was trying to think of. Okay, next exercise. Hug the knees to the chest. It just appeared to my mind. I think because of the breath of fire. Inhale, bring the nose up towards the knees and let the shoulder blades relax down. And inhale deep. Then. Four measurables is a very grand rising. Truly. It's also they call the four boundless attitudes. That's what I love, you know? They're boundless attitudes. We get to, if we really want, we get to choose the attitude in which we traverse the paths of life. But then, can I cultivate the Shakti, the magnetism of that attitude, so that I hold it genuinely? So it's a living thing, not just an idea or a vision or philosophy only. I can start that way. But can I develop its Shakti? That's what this is all about. Inhale, squeeze it up, squeeze up. Relax all the way down. I want to have the attitude that they call it the attitude of gratitude is the real way of prosperity. But the attitude of gratitude is not come easy for everyone. But anyone can cultivate it. But to resonate with it is different than cultivating it. Cultivating it takes effort, consistency, focus, some sort of sadhana around that which one is trying to develop, embody, hold, shine, actualize. Yeah, hug the knees to the chest, and then they rock and roll a few times, coming up to the easy pose. And the arms at 60 degrees and the thumbs are tucked in, fingers tucked in. Pads of your fingertips to the pads of your palms, like you're gonna connect an electrical circuit like that. The arms are up like that, and inhale. Shoulder blades release, arms elongated. The exhale and the inhale are equal in their strength, you know? You hit that equalized energy. There's a negative and the positive charge of the chi, of the life force. Negative and the positive mind. Negative mind's real job is to protect us. It gives us discernment. It helps us set our boundaries, have our wisdom. Positive mind is to look how to expand and look for opportunity. But the negative mind, when it becomes animated by that which is non-intelligence, what they call in Ayurveda called vata, the negative mind, instead of being your protector, your gatekeeper, your discernment, it becomes negativity. So shine that bright magnetic field of yours, and balancing the three minds. The positive mind, when it's over-dominant, becomes delusional. We need both. The negative force and the positive force. You can't have one without the other. And through synchronization of the breath rhythm and the gaze of the third eye, now visualize between the two thumbs a beautiful arc of energy, like a luminosity. The more you concentrate on it, the brighter. Now your whole inner channel, the center of you, like a beaming pillar of luminosity, of like a brilliant energy. And then see if you can even feel or see your whole magnetic field, like a really brilliant, gorgeous, majestic-like luminosity. Creativity. Go there. Inhale, thumb tips touching above the head, stretch open the fingers. Inhale some more, touch the ceiling. Stretch up, hold the position through your nose, exhale. Inhale, stretch up, stretch, space in the spine, stretch up, hold the position, exhale. Last time, inhale. Stretch up, shoulder blades release. Touch the ceiling with your fingertips. Root lock, lift. Stretch up and release. Beautiful. Lovely. Come standing. You're going to have your arms out to the sides and your legs stretched out. If you're in this room, you can face like the bar side of the room. Fingers are firm, legs are engaged. It's all about strengthening your core. You inhale to the center here, and then you exhale down in that direction like Shar. Then you inhale, use your pelvic strength, your core strength to lift you as you fill your lungs on the inhale, and exhaling down and go. Beautiful, keep going. Inhale up and exhale. Good. Come sitting, please. Nice. Hands on the knees. And it's like this. Stirring the bowl of the pelvis with the spoon of the spine. Breathe through your nose, long, slow, and deep. Massaging the inner organs. Yoga practice is healing. It's being actively participating in the movement of your own prana, causing it to have a healing effect, because prana is naturally healing when it starts to flow through its channels. Dis-ease sets in when the prana is not able to flow with ease. Or it can be flowing, but it can be erratic sometimes. If it becomes stagnated, it can become erratic. It can flow out. But the state of health, what an Ayurveda calls a perfect health, is when the prana is flowing with rhythm and ease. The other direction, did we already do that? Fantastic. Inhale, center. Suspend the breath. And exhale. And close the eyes down. And let your breath just flow naturally. And keep your heart lifted high. Your eyes closed down. And draw your inner gaze where the root of the nose meets the skull bone, up and in between the two eyebrows. Endeavor to relax your optic gaze into that area. Not trying too hard. Try to do it in a relaxed fashion and in a way that you can feel is kind of induces relaxation to the organism. It's allowing the energy to be established in the intuitive psyche. And make the breath now just move nice and slowly and deeply as you relax your gaze into the third eye space. And you think about, as you do so, and you even, it's maybe less thinking and more feeling how much you wish to be happy in your life. How genuine of a wish that really is, if you really sit with it. And then how much you actually are suffering. Thinking of the passage of time, the impermanent nature of this, acknowledging our own suffering. And thinking of also that in many ways we do have happiness. We have maybe a food to eat, we have a home, we have a family, we have so many blessings we can count if we become simple enough. And simple is real. And we count our blessings. And may those overflow. And then we bring our mind to some cherished, loved one of ours, like our mom or our daughter, or our son, or our whatever, maybe it's an animal family that you love so much and couldn't stand to witness them suffer. Your heart can't bear it. And you think of how much you wish them to be happy and how much you wish them to never have to suffer. And then you also think is also how amazing they are and how they do have all sorts of wonderful things about them and their life. And you see them happy. It's called sympathetic joy, boundless joy. Whenever you find happiness anywhere else, you get happy because of it. It's called sympathetic joy, boundless joy. And if you can't really feel your heart swelling with love, think about them suffering. And once you feel that swelling of the heart, see if you can then, in a genuine way, send it to all living things from the privacy of your own heart into the very heart of life. What if you put it into the sound, into the music, and just let the music carry it across all time and space? Your wishes. Take your thumbs like so, like this, and you press them together. This is the Jupiter meditation of the white swan. You press them a little so that creates a little arc of the thumbs, and your chest lifts up and your shoulder blades release down. And you close your eyes, but first you see it's like two swans with their foreheads touching. Yeah? But see that shape of your mudra? Then close your eyes and see the shape through your closed eyes. And begin breathing long, slow, and deeply. Try to keep your chest out, your shoulder blades released down, and you stable down in your core. Like push the sit bones down into the earth. Lift up through the chest. Shoulder blades release. If you need to peek your eyes open to check the shape, then close the eyes again and see the mudra through your closed eyes. The White Swan meditation to open the intuitive psyche, the spiritual eye, to witness the interconnectedness of all things, to bring oneself into an inner bliss that transcends the ups and the downs of life. And that we share. We have a shared nucleus. Deeper the breathing. If it becomes quite difficult, it's a difficult kriya. Deeper the breath. If it's not difficult at all for you, you make that breath so deep, but so long and so subtle. And see if you can have a dharana, a continuous stream of awareness on the image of the white swans at the height of the Ajna Chakra. Make that image radiate in your mind. Deeper the breathing. It's regal posture, beautiful posture. See the image. It's wonderful. Keep going. You see what happens is the central channel will open up under the pressure of the thing. At a certain point, it feels like it can't, be withstood. But deepen the breath, and you see. And the nadis, you see the posture, the visualization, and the breath creates such a type of kind of pressure that the prana has to respond. So when the prana is responding, you want to direct it in a beautiful fashion, in something expansive, like a white swan at the third eye. It's archetypal, it's symbolic, and it's totally real. This is us. And when that central channel opens, the meditation, it won't feel as hard anymore. It may still be some difficult, but there's a bliss that opens up, a sort of Shakti that you can feel. So try to stay with it. Deeper the breathing. See the white swan mudra. In the final home stretch, deeper the breathing, please. "30 seconds. See the image? Hold the position, exhale, and then your deepest inhale. See the white swan mudra as you suspend the breath in. Hold the position through your nose, exhale. Inhale deeply. See the white swan mudra, make it feel like it can radiate and shine. Hold the position, exhale. Last time, inhale. Hold the position, shoulder blades released, heart out. Press the thumbs and spacious of the mind. Let the mind become spacious, open, receptive, and slowly, slowly relax. Shanti Deva, may I be a guard for those who are protectorless, a guide for those who journey on the road. Shanti Deva's Bodhisattva prayer. For those who wish to cross the water, may I be a boat, a raft, a bridge. May I be an isle for those who yearn for land, a lamp for those who long for light. For all who need a resting place, may I be a bed. For those who are in need, may I be their servant. May I be the wishing jewel, the vase of plenty, a word of power, a supreme healing. May I be the tree of miracles, and for every being the abundant cow. Just like earth and space itself, and all of the mighty elements, for boundless multitudes of beings, may I always be the ground of life, the source of sustenance. Thus for everything that lives, as far as the limits of the sky, may I be constantly the source of livelihood, until all beings pass beyond sorrow. Relax on your backs. relax. your fingers and toes. And rotate the wrists and rotate the ankles. And rub the palms and rub the soles of the feet, make them have a little friction and heat. And waking up the nerve endings, cat stretch to each side. And hug the knees up into the chest, rock a couple of times, and for the final kind of seal of our little journey together, you take your thumb tips into this half-star of David Kriya. Thumb tips touching, index tips touching, middle finger tips touching. The ring and the pinky, as Jupiter and Mercury, stretch away. The thumbs will point right at your heart center. The index and middle fingers and all the other fingers stretch away from you and away from each other. Yeah, so the Jupiter fingers pointing kind of away from you like a 60-degree angle. The middle fingertips are touching and also pointing away from you, more like almost like a 30-degree angle. The ring fingertips are not touching and they're also stretched away, and the pinkies are not touching and stretched away. And you hold this posture very beautifully at the heart center, and then you close your eyes. And you take a deep inhalation through your nose. Then you suspend the breath in for a moment until you need to exhale. And when you need to exhale through the nose, you exhale completely. And then inhale again. Suspending the breath in, thumbs pointing right at your heart center. And suspend the breath for a few moments and then exhale. And push the breath all the way out. And continue inhaling, suspending the breath in for a few moments. Exhaling the breath through the nose all the way out. And then for your gaze, you bring your awareness to the top of your head, eyes closed down, and bring where your attention goes, your prana flows, and you focus it on the top of your head, like the soft spot of the baby. Inhaling, suspending for a few moments, and when you suspend the breath, you suspend the mind. You make it spacious. You anchor it at the top of the head to the best of your ability, and you keep the body as still as possible for just a few minutes. And in that few minutes, let the process happen. You can roll your eyes up a little bit as if you're looking out the top of your head. You can imagine that the breath is flowing through the top of your head. Although anatomically the breath isn't doing that, but the prana absolutely does. So follow the breath up to the top of the head and back down as a way of anchoring your awareness, your mind's attention at the drishti point of the crown to stimulate the pituitary and pineal glands.
Sunni
your head. Follow the breath and become blissful. Crown of the head. Crown of the head. Make this a very special meditation by really fully going into it. Not doing it halfway or most of the way. Bringing full presence for the last final bit. Crown of the head. Feeling the shining, mysterious path of your life, of your being. Sitting in the center of that. And becoming totally still. Crown of the head. Anchor. And inhale deeply. Suspend the breath in. And be totally still. Spacious of the mind. Hold the position, exhale. Inhale. Totally still, spacious of the mind. Exhale. Inhale. And relax. Take your hands out of the purples. And finishing in the same way we begin, and bringing the mind to the wish of happiness, the predicament of suffering, and wishing for happiness and alleviation of suffering. And wherever there is happiness, real happiness, and real joy. May that overflow. Sadnam. Thank you. Happy Martin Luther King Day. Great job. Yeah, take your time, enjoy yourself, relax, drink plenty of water after that. These sessions, it's really good to drink lots of water, and especially when it kind of gets into the deeper layers there. Yeah, lots of water, so you have to pee more than you want. All right. Have a beautiful rest of the evening. Life Force Academy, we're happening this week. Charlotte's here every Wednesday morning, 9:30 a.m. And have a beautiful night. Lots of things coming that I'll tell you about another time. That music from the beginning of the class until when you laid down is a new Life Force Academy original piece. It's called Dances Within a Dream, and we're working on it, almost finished. So it will likely be our first kind of Life Force Academy original piece of music we'll release out into the world. But thanks everybody, thanks to all those great musicians that create such a vibe. Okay, Satnam. See you later. But you're wired somehow. Like you have a certain way of existing that is absolutely natural and skillful for you. It's you're talented in that way. It's how your heart expresses itself. It's how you get inside of love, and how love expresses itself uniquely through you.
If you have a mind, you have a mission.
If you have a mind,
You have a mission.
If you have a mind,
You have a mission.